Hi everyone and welcome back. Okay, in this tutorial what we're going to do is we're going to get elements by tag name. So I think what we'll do is we're just going to create a H2 and we'll do a H2 for, we'll do like American cities. And then what we might do is do one for European cities. So we'll say H2 European cities. And just put in an unordered list underneath both. We'll just do maybe 3 cities for each. So unordered list, opening clothing tag. We have our LIs. So let me just copy this out. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how you can use get elements by tag name. So for example, if you wanted to get all of the H2s in a document. Okay, so let me just save, copy that. So what we can do here is American cities. So we will say Seattle. We will say Miami, and let's do Dallas. And then European cities, we'll do Athens, we'll do Rome, and we will also do Milan. Okay, so if I save and refresh, we have a completely different setup now. So what I want to do is I just want to show you for the first time how we can use the get elements by tag name. So for example, how do I get all of the heading 2s? So what I could do is I can just say let headings or heading 2s be equal to, and I will say document dot get elements by tag name. Okay, and what I'm looking to get is I'm looking to get all of the elements that are essentially a H2 on the page. And if I just say console.log heading 2s, what do we get? Well, let's save and have a look. We get once again a HTML collection. Okay, so what you can do is you can change the content by accessing the variable name we stored them at index 0 to change the content for this heading 2 here, the American cities, because it's the first heading 2 in the document. You could also write code just to change the European cities, or you could do both. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's just change maybe the American cities to be blue and the European to be purple for some reason. So what we could do is we could say heading 2s at index 0. We want to access the style property of that. I can't spell style, apologies. Then we want to access the color, and we want to change that to be blue. So if I now save and refresh, what do we get? We get the American cities are blue. So we were able to use get elements by tag name and then using index notation, so index 0, to change just the American cities, that heading 2. We could also change European cities if we wanted. We might do an awful yellow color. So once again, we could say heading 2 is at index 1, and we could say style.color is equal to, we could change that to be yellow. Okay, so if I save and refresh, that has turned to yellow. It's really awful. And then what we could do is we could just change some of the style attributes of the basically the LIs, so let's say the list items. So what we could do is we could actually say let list items be equal to document.get elements by tag name. And what I want to do is I just want to get a reference to each LI. Okay, so now we've got all of the LIs, but what I want to do is I want to affect all of them. Well, the first thing I want to do is I just want to console.log out the list items. Okay, console.log out list items, and let's see what we get. And what we get here is a HTML collection. So it'll be easier if we convert that to an array. So what we can do is we can say list items, and I don't need to use the let keyword. We've already declared and initialized the variable up here, and we'll just convert that to an array. We will say array dot from, and then pass in list items to that inbuilt method there. So just to explain what's happening, we are using the document object model on that line to get all of the LIs, all of the list items in the HTML page. And then here what we are doing on this line is we're just essentially converting that HTML collection into an array. Okay? And then now when I log up the list items, what we should see is we actually get an array of list items. Okay? And there we go, and we see it is of type array. Awesome. So now what we could do is we could actually just iterate over all of the list items. So we could say, I'll tell you what, let's do all of these changes only when the user actually presses a button. So what we'll do is just get a reference to the button. We'll use query selector. Okay, so we'll say, we'll do the button down here. So okay, let button be equal to, say document.query selector, and we just want to pass in the type of button. There's only one button on the page, so basically that is just going to get the first button. And then when the user clicks on the button, we're going to run some code. So we'll say button.onClick, put on our event handler there. And then what happens is we're going to run a function, and only when the user clicks on the button will we actually change content. So I'll just paste that in there. So if I save and refresh, now nothing happens to the American and European cities, the heading 2s, until they click the button. We click and they change color. That's awesome. But just to get a bit more practice with the, getting the elements by tag name and actually doing something with it, let's also change the LIs. So basically here what we're doing is we're changing the styles of the heading 2s or the H2s. And then down here, we're going to change the LIs. We're going to change the style of the list items. And I'll just change that to be the same as below. Okay, so now what we want to do is we'll just do a quick for loop. So we'll say for let I is equal to 0. We're going to run the loop while I is less than the list items, that array dot length. We've seen this many times down the course, and then increment I++. And what we'll do in this for loop is, just to make sure we have it all working, is we'll just log out to the console the list items at index of I. So we're not going to actually change them yet. We're just going to log them out to the console. So now what happens when the user clicks on the button, we change the headings and we just log out all of the list items to the console. So if I save and refresh, they change color and we get our list items there. Okay, that's awesome. But now what we want to do is we actually want to do something with the list items. So what we'll do is we'll say and bear in mind the list items are actually cities. So we'll say let city be equal to list item at index I, so whatever index we're on. And what we'll do is we'll just say city.style.font size. We'll change that to be maybe 20 pixels. And maybe we also as well might just change the line height. So we'll say city.style.line height and just change that to be maybe 120%. Okay. Now if I save and refresh, let's see what happens now when we click the button. What we've done is we've changed the styling of the cities and of the H2s. And really the whole point about this tutorial was just to make sure that we are getting a bit of practice with getElementsByTagName. So this is another little example now where we've used a different way of querying the DOM to get some sort of element from the HTML page, and we were actually able to manipulate content. So in this case we changed colors and we also changed the styling there of the list items in the unordered lists, and we only did it when a user clicked on a button. So we're just getting a bit more practice here with letting the user behavior affect something on the web page. So that's awesome. That is how we can use the getElementsByTagName. Key takeaway is that getElementsByTagName is an inbuilt method in JavaScript that we can use to get all of the elements of a particular tag name. It will return a HTML collection, but if you wanted, you can convert it to an array, and that makes it easier to iterate over all the elements. Okay, that's awesome. I'll see you in the next tutorial.